Yes, everybody, welcome back to a brand new match preview on the channel. Hope you guys are keeping well and safe. Wolves are off to the King Power Stadium this weekend to take on Leicester City. It's been a great run of form for Wolves over the last couple of weeks, really taking advantage of our home games, beating Chelsea, beating Brentford, and now we come on to the next couple of games, which again on paper you could expect Wolves to get something out of, and I think if we win this weekend, Wolves are in a much better position, and you could possibly say that Wolves should be pretty much safe. But yeah, we've got this game this weekend against Leicester. We play Palace as well at home on Tuesday, so a fairly quick turnaround in those games. But as always, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Be sure to hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We have got a fantastic prize once again up from our channel partners over at Football Prizes. This week it is a sign and frame Diego Costa shirt, obviously the goal scorer, or one of the goal scorers from last week's victory over Brentford, and they've got loads of other prizes involved as well, so be sure to get involved in their prize draw. A link is in the description down below. But Leicester, really intriguing game. They've been struggling quite a lot this season. They've been absolutely awful since the World Cup, to be completely honest. Brendan Rodgers, obviously in charge there, lost his job a few weeks ago, and now they've brought in Dean Smith, the former Aston Villa and Norwich City manager, in charge as caretaker manager. There's a few familiar faces in there alongside him. Craig Shakespeare, who was at the club previously, John Terry as well. We do speak about that a little bit on the opposition preview later on in the video. But yeah, they've not been in fantastic form whatsoever, and they do have some injury issues. We'll talk about the Wolves team news in a second. We have had the both pre-match press conferences today, but Dean Smith for Leicester has said Ricardo Pereira, the right back, is out injured. Yannick Vestergaard will be out for the rest of the season for them. Ryan Bertrand did get some minutes last time, but unsure whether he'll be able to last the full game. Harvey Barnes isn't going to be ready for this game against Wolves, and Johnny Evans is also out with an illness as well. So they've got lots of different players all across the pitch out injured, lots of players out of form. So you would possibly say right now is an okay time to play Leicester. However, their first game under Dean Smith was against Manchester City, and yes, they lost that game. You would expect them to lose that game, but sort of the second half they seem to react and have a half decent game. But at the King Power, you just really don't know what to expect with Wolves at the moment, and I'm hoping the last 2 weeks where we've played really well and got 2 wins won't make us take our eye off the ball slightly, because this is a winnable game. There is an opportunity for us to get 3 points here. Interesting one for Wolves. Obviously, Lopetegui had his press conference today. He said there are no new injury concerns, which is obviously fantastic to hear. Raul Jimenez, Ryan Aït-Nour is still struggling to break into the match day setup at the moment. But when you've won 2 games and you've only made 1 change from game to game, you would hope that Wolves are going to play again with a very similar sort of team. But the dilemma for Julen Lopetegui and the situation and the conversations that people have been having all week within the Wolves fan base is, will Ruben Neves be reintroduced into the starting 11? For me, and I've said it on the last podcast, I've said it on the videos, I would probably try and stick to this team as much as we can. I think it would be completely unfair to drop any of those players as of right now, but that's not to say that there might be certain knocks there. And I know Lopetegui said there's no new injury concerns, but there might still be knocks there that we've got to be cautious of, i.e. I think Lemina possibly would have a slight knock, but should be okay. Diego Costa had his knee pretty heavily strapped up in the second half and couldn't continue. So if that is the case, then obviously Costa could drop out and reintroduce Neves. But I just think he's changing from quite a forward-thinking attacking formation, especially when Leicester probably are going to play quite a negative formation, even at home. Going from dropping Costa and bringing in Neves, I think you're just changing the whole way that we've been playing. So it's mad to think, Ruben Neves is undeniably our best footballer. He's our captain. But I just think when you're playing as well as you have been, I think he's going to understand the situation that the club are in and the route that we want to go in. But very, very hard to predict a lineup. These are the 2 I've gone with. I've gone with 2 predicted lineups today. I would go like I said, as minimal changes as possible. Sarr in goal. I think the back 4 have been playing really well. 2 clean sheets on the bounce for them. Totti Gomez is coming at left back and been really solid. Dawson and Kilman starting to settle down a little bit together now, and Semedo's come on leaps and bounds since Lopetegui's come in. Midfield, sort of 2 or 3. I've gone with Nunes, Lemina and João Gomez again, and the front three of Cunha, Sarabia and Diego Costa. But like I said earlier, things could change considerably. We could easily see the 4-3-3. The situation or the scenario where we played 4 central midfielders didn't really work last time, to be completely honest. But you could see this one where Neves comes in, probably in replacement of Costa, if I had to predict. But it's going to be, I think the whole situation with Costa and Cunha, it's worked really, really well for Wolves. So it's going to be really interesting. I don't envy Lopetegui at all having to make that decision. But of course, once again, we've got our Betmate games up this weekend. A link to join is in the top of the description. If you haven't already joined, you can use the code TW10. You get a £10 bonus, and obviously using the link in the description as well. We're in the Saturday 3 p.m. kickoffs this weekend. So alongside all those other games that are kicking off in the Premier League at 3 p.m. And this is my team for this week. I've gone with Alisson in goal for Liverpool against Forest. Mitchell and Trent Alexander-Arnold as my 2 defenders, with Jacob Ramsey and Mario Lemina in the midfield, and Ollie Watkins up front with Olise. You can join, like I said, using the link in the description. You've got to be 18 plus, UK residents only, and please do gamble aware. And then I have spoken to Leicester fan Neel as well to get the lowdown on Leicester, their situation. Are there fears amongst the Leicester fan base about a possible relegation, and his thoughts on the Dean Smith appointment? So, Neel, thank you very much for joining me from the channel Beyond the 90. We're talking about Leicester hosting Wolves this weekend, mate. It's been an awful season for Leicester. I'm sure you're really, really disappointed so far, but still time to claw it back. You've still got some decent fixtures left this season, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But can you give us a bit of a summary of what's gone wrong so far at the King Power this year?
Pretty much everything. Well, the main thing is, the thing is with Leicester, as you know, you're in a similar position. We've been competing for Europe. What it is, Brendan Rodgers is a manager, great manager with a short shelf life. He's in there with Mourinho, Conte, that kind of bracket. Doesn't mean they're bad managers, just means that when it starts to go south, get rid. I think you had the same thing with it, like with Lage, similar thing where when it goes wrong, just get rid. Don't try and hold on. And we've gone from fifth, and an FA Cup, 8th. And that's it. I think we just pipped you on the last game of the season last season.
Possibly, yeah. I think, yeah,
To try and we got 8th somehow because we were in 14th a few games ago, and then this time we're in relegation. It's just gone wrong. He's destroyed a lot of stuff at the club. A lot of the behind the scenes stuff that people don't really know about in terms of the head physio that's been there for 20 years. He's gone, I can't deal with this anymore. The head scout, and we're known for being good scouting. He's like, the manager's not listening to me. I'm out. Injuries left, right, and centre because Brendan Rodgers is playing. I mean, at the moment, I think we've got 4 ACLs, which is, again, normally you have 1 or 2, like 4. And we've had injuries for the last 3 years constantly because he's pushing the players too hard and they're just going left, right, and centre. Tactics have been not there. He's been throwing the players, the manager, playing the players, the board, the transfers, and the fans all under the bus at various points in the season as well. And it's just been, honestly, it's just been a season to absolutely forget about. And you've been there, you know, it's not about, oh, we deserve this, we deserve not to be. We deserve to be in the relegation zone with the form we're in. And as you mentioned just off screen, we're not won since February. But man, we're a better squad than we're showing. And what's great is that it's coming to light how bad Brendan Rodgers is after a 3-year period, because a lot of people was like, yeah, he's a great manager. He should take this job. He should, but he shouldn't be in management for a long period of time because you're seeing what's happening to us at the moment.
Yeah, I think, I mean, look at your fixtures between now and the end of the season. There's still time, I think, for Leicester to claw it back and stay in the Premier League. You've got ourselves. You got then Leeds, who are equally as poor at the moment. Everton, who are down there. West Ham on the final game of the season as well. So there's still time and there's still points there for you guys. Dean Smith, though, is a really interesting appointment. He did okay at Villa, had a bit of a difficult time at Norwich, and then obviously come to you with, as a caretaker. What did you make of that? Did you want someone on a permanent basis? Are you happy with a caretaker for now? Or what were your thoughts behind it?
So I think in terms of the way that Leicester City are, Um, we needed anybody, and when he was initially linked to us, I can't lie, I was, oh god.
Yeah.
But it was who he brought in as well. So he brought in his assistant manager, Craig Shakespeare, who knows the
Mhm.
club inside out. He's been with us since 2018. He took us when he was the manager to the quarterfinals of Champions League. He's won as a league. So he's been around the squad. He's been in the championship. He knows the squad. And that's what we need is somebody just basically bring us in and put them together. And also, defensive coach, we've got John Terry. Again, another thing that's gone under the radar as well. So it's not just Dean that's the headline, and it will be because he's the manager. He goes with the tactics.
For
The
sure.
fact that we're bringing in Craig Shakespeare, who's been in the club before, he understands the squad. He understands people like Vardy, and I think Vardy and Albrighton and Daniel Amasi a little bit more. A lot of the players have moved on, but he's been there. He knows the squad. And John Terry to come and defensively set us up. I think it's the right appointment till the end of the season. I wouldn't mind if he kept us forward, but I've got a feeling that Potter is going to be the guy that they really want. They'll go for in the summer.
I think Potter would be a really interesting appointment. I think anyone sort of our, you spoke about it on, we did a preview on Neil's channel as well, which we'll talk about later, but we spoke about it on there. He talked about like a bracket of teams, your Brightons, your Brentford, your Wolves, Leicester, West Ham. I think any of those teams could take a manager like Graham Potter, and I think he'd do a great job. I think obviously the
Mhm.
whole Chelsea thing was probably a step too soon for him as a manager. But if you stay in the Premier League, I think that would be a great appointment. There was something that you mentioned to me earlier on as well about tactically how Leicester were going to set up. Obviously, we've seen Wolves play this sort of 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1 style. We're unsure whether that will change on Saturday, whether Neves will come back in and that will change things. That's a debate that could go on for a long time between Wolves fans anyway. But you mentioned to me about Leicester possibly playing like a back three, back five on Saturday. How have you been playing, and what do you think the reasons would be for moving to that sort of system?
Yeah, so essentially the majority of the season was set up with a back four, 4-2-3-1, with one striker up top. James Maddison before Tete came in, so a right winger that we got in January. Maddison was playing on the right hand side, and we played two CDMs, and then Barnes on the left. Now Barnes is injured. So at Leicester squad currently we only have two players that are wingers. One of them being Harvey Barnes, who's now injured. So you can't really play one winger, which is Tete. So unless you're putting Maddison out the wide, and that's just, as you know, playing a wide, somebody in the centre or a 10 wide just doesn't work. It's just not
Hmm.
good enough. Unless you're Gareth Southgate, then apparently that's the right thing to do for James Madison. But in terms of because we've got one, we only have two wingers. One is injured. You kind of have to go into a back three, and we have three strikers, so it makes up for that. But James Madison in the middle, and we've got two wing backs that will go up and down, and a back three. It's only something we've seen recently because, again, coming back to Brendan Rodgers, he's left. He likes to throw players under the bus. Soyuncu was one of those players, and he left him out to dry. Um, and he just hung him out and said, "You're not trying." He came out in the media and said he's not trying in training. And we've heard from other professionals that are like Leicester side and BBC Radio Leicester. He goes, "You don't say that about a player. The fact they're not trying in training because again, it's basically just said, right, get out the squad." And apparently he's going to sign for a free to Atletico Madrid, so he
I've
can't be a
seen them.
that bad player. But he's come into the squad, and I think he's gone. Dean Smith's gone, look, you're a good player. And he was fantastic against Man City. Yes, we lost 3-1, but he was really good, aggressive, pushing forward. A back three seems to suit him really well as well. So a combination of those three is a reason why we'll probably go to a back three and have wing backs.
Yeah, I'll be again. People watching it, if you want to let me know in the comments, I would be intrigued to see how Wolves set up against that. I'm sure we've played against back fives already this season. Off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure, but would be really interested to see. And obviously, the John Terry thing that you mentioned earlier, I've always thought so interesting, especially after Maguire left. Correct me if
Mm,
I'm wrong. I thought he started off really well as well. I think there's obviously a talented footballer in there.
yeah.
But it's difficult, isn't it, for a manager? We had Bruno Lage do the same thing with a couple of players where it's hard. Of course, you want to defend players, but at the same time, if you talk you've got to be careful basically what you say in the media.
Mm.
Bruno Lage did that with a couple of young players, and for whatever reason, they're not at the club anymore. So you do have to be careful. So it will be interesting to see how Leicester line up. You mentioned a few players there. Who have been the players in form? I know Harvey Barnes has scored a lot of goals, but obviously he's out injured. Is James Maddison the obvious one that Wolves should be looking out for on Saturday?
I'd say so. I'd say if I'm a Wolves fan, I'd say cut Madison out. You'll be okay. We'll
Mm.
have Yuri Tillemans coming back into the team. He's another player that's consistently. I remember he scored that cracker against you in the
Yeah.
4-1. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Hmm.
That kind of goal. I'm watching that in real time, going, I can't believe that. There's kind of even if it's for our team. In terms of players we should look out for, I think one that probably will feature is Kelechi Iheanacho. He's been again a really strong player for us, and he's just one of those players that he doesn't know what he's going to do. So the
Yeah.
opposition doesn't know what he's going to do. Complete live wire. I've never seen a player like him where he will go and he will miss a penalty, hit the bar, completely scuff his shot, and then put one top bins. Sometimes all in the same game. You just no idea what he's going to do. He'll run into players and go, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Speaking of Crystal Palace fans, it's kind of like Mateta, kind of a
Yeah.
similar
Yeah.
vibe to him. But obviously, he's been in the Premier League for longer, and he understands the Premier League a little bit more as well. So with him, he's going to be vital to us staying up. Jamie Vardy, I wouldn't say he's done. I think he's got one more season. Because this season was kind of a write-off for him because what we heard is that he goes, I can't play with these tactics, and I'm going to try and
Wow.
preserve myself and not get injured. Because as I mentioned before, so many players getting injured. So I think Vardy's got in the chance next season where his contract expires to get into that top 10 Premier League scorers of all time. I think he's only 9.9 goals off that. But
Oh wow.
yeah, Kelechi Iheanacho for me is one to look out for.
Do you think if you go down, players like Vardy and stuff will move on? Because hasn't he got like ventures out in America? Has he? Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think he'd move across
Yeah,
to there?
he had something called the Rochester Rhinos, and then somebody in our comment section went, "Mate, they were liquidated 2 months ago." So I was like, "Oh,
Oh
maybe
right,
not then."
okay, maybe not then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know that either. Somebody in the comments again, they could correct me. Comments will correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, maybe. I think depending on how the end of the season goes, as you kind of know, if the season goes well and you can think, okay, there's progression here, he
Mhm.
might just go one last time because after this, if we do go down, will he stay with us? There's a clause in his contract that says he has to be the highest paid person at the club.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So would he stay with us? Potentially, but it would be his like one last hurrah to get us back into Premier League, then retire properly. He's not. He doesn't age like other players, but I think this season has been I think he's got 2 goals in
Wow.
the Premier League this
And one of
season.
them was against us.
Yeah, and one of them was against you. It's strange because he's been consistently since he came the year we won the league, he's been hitting 20s goals pretty much a season. Goals and assists collectively, which is completely not easy. And this season he's fallen off a cliff. I still think he's got another 10 goals in him, the 10 goal season easily. We just got to get the right manager next season if we're in the Premier League to get that out of him, really.
Has he still got the pace? Because that was obviously a big part of his game. Or do you think he's lost a yard of that over the last year
His
or so?
positioning is better, but also with Brendan Rodgers, they brought more players in. So when we played the 4-4-2 when we won the league, there wasn't pace in the team. Now we've got Harvey Barnes, who wasn't there. We've got Tete there. We've got Madison there. Them players do the running for him, and he just
Mhm.
needs to be in the right spot, just to
Got you.
not tap in Merchant, but just makes the right spots at the right time to make sure he's putting in the work. Now he's not running around like a headless chicken like he was before, where he was just like running after everything. I'll get it. I'll get it. I'll get it. He's got to take his opportunities to do that, but he still don't be surprised if he comes in for a 30-minute cameo performance and it's just on it the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I say about Diego Costa. You know, if he starts the game, yeah, he might only get you 60 minutes, but as long as he gives you 110% for that 60
Yeah.
minutes, that's all you can ask for as a fan, really. Um, for the obviously final stage of the season, Neil, or what are your thoughts? Do you think? So, what are your thoughts on what is the sort of consensus of Leicester fans? Do you think you are going to be a Premier League team next year? And what's the sort of summary when you're looking on social media? Is it all doom and gloom over on Leicester Twitter or Facebook?
I mean, as you know, Twitter and Facebook is not a good gauge for it. You know what I mean? What it is going to the ground and speak to fans, I think there is enough belief. Again, the fact this is going to be our first home game with Dean in charge, because
Mhm.
bear in mind he's only come in last game, and for that he only had a minimal time to really get
Of course.
things sorted ahead of this game. Now it's going to be the first home game. I want to see what can happen. Wolves going to be a tough test. I'm hoping we can get a win because that would help us just come out of the relegation zone. Um, in terms of what Leicester fans think, there is just a belief of let's get behind the team and stay in the Premier League. we're not too good to go down. That phrase is kind of there's not an arrogance to it, but there is. Look, we have got the quality to stay in the Premier League, but never say never. We've
Hmm.
both been in that position. We both know what it's like. Um, so I think we believe we can stay up because there's three worse teams than us. I think Everton potentially be one of them, Nottingham Forest another one, Leeds another one, and Southampton. Now you compare that to us, and considering we play Leeds and Everton as well, as you were saying before, we have the ability to stay in the Premier League. And I
It's in
think,
your hands, isn't it? Really, as well.
yeah,
Your own
it's been
position.
in our
Yeah.
hands for a while. I mean, recently we've lost to Southampton, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace. They were supposed to be the games that we get points out of as well. We lost all of them. With Brendan Rodgers in charge, it's been just horrific this season, how we've just fallen off. But I think these next three games, yourself, Everton, and Leeds, decide our season. After that, we do have, again, I think Fulham,
Yeah.
Liverpool, and Newcastle, and then we have West Ham. So we've got an easy-ish run in, considering about the other teams around us. So I think we are good enough to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, Neil. Apart from Saturday, I do wish you all the best for the rest of the season, mate. Obviously, we did a video over on your channel. If people want to go and check that out, what's your channel and the best places to find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Beyond the 90 LCFC. So you can find us all there. Again, we have on over on our channel on YouTube where we've got a preview with you, Dave, for just looking into the wall side of things as well. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, mate. Thank you very much for coming on. Fingers crossed we speak again next season, mate. But yeah, all the best, and I'll catch you soon.
Cheers, man. See you later.
So big thanks once again to Neil. I'll leave a link to him and his channels in the description down below. Really interesting game. I think Wolves have just taken a little bit of pressure off themselves, but if we can go into this weekend, winning and go into it in a much better position, like I said earlier, I think we'd be absolutely fine. We've got some decent games coming up. I think we want to be in a position this time next week where we're pretty much okay. If we do drop points against Leicester, I think we want to try and get back on it, and back at home on Tuesday against Palace, who have been phenomenal since Hodgson came in. If we can get a win there, I think if you can get yourself 3 to 6 points in the next two games, Wolves will be in an absolutely fine position, because we'll come on to the last stretch of the season against Brighton, against Villa, teams that have been very decent, especially over the last few months or so. So let's wait and see. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll catch you guys very, very soon.